Hello, for my next D&D session I need cursed Ents. The players are traveling through creepy woods, and we left the game at a cliffhanger. With a cursed glow in their eyes, the Blightroot Ents appear from the mist-bound woods. What do you do? Well, I'm gonna craft them. Okay, let's begin. The build is based on this Ent I have built a while ago from foam. I used XPS foam for this build as well. Here I'm starting off by making the legs. You can use EVA foam as well, that should result in a more durable miniature. Okay, this is how I made nice and deep wood textures. First I cut away the corners so it's somewhat round. Then you just cut out these deep grooves. Works best to just do it in a random way. This here is a good starting point for nice tree trunk textures. Next I used a pencil to make additional textures, over everything. I imagine you can use a blade for this step if you decide to use EVA foam instead. As far as I know, this XPS foam called Fin foam is superior to other brands, but it should be doable with any, it just might be a bit more difficult. Anyway, to turn this into a nice leg, I bent it like this. Do tell me if this is impossible or possible with the foam you use. Here we have the legs. To make them sturdier, I applied PVA glue into the joints and then stuck in a small bit of foam. Toothpicks and steel wire might also be useful here if you feel like your foam is not strong enough. Starting from a larger bit, I also made the torso in a similar fashion. Okay, that's pretty epic for a twisted back. I put in glue and a textured foam bit. Good, I'll glue it to the legs and explain. So, with the help of some PVA glue and wooden sticks, I attached the legs in such a way that the treant will have a hunched over posture. I can already see the arms creepily reaching forward, and hollow eyes with an unsettling glow. Before the glue dried, I adjusted the position of the legs and placed in some support bits. Now that's pretty good. From these longer and thinner pieces, I made the arms in the same way as I did the legs. Take your time with the textures, it's worth it in the end. I snapped these as well and reinforced them with glue and foam. I figured out a good pose first, then glued on the arms. The right hand rests on the ground, while the left one is trying to grab something. And here is a mini for scale. I think this will become pretty good. I used the bits I just cut off as wedges to strengthen the joints. We can add textures here later. Here is a stump from my first attempts. I shaped it into the head. First some textures on top, and then 2 eye sockets. I also managed to make a crude mouth, will probably look quite derpy. I glued it on together with another leftover piece to see how it looks. I regretted and decided that this works better. Fair enough. At this point, make sure that everything is in place while the glue dries. A bag of sticks might always come in handy. I used a small stick for a claw on one of the Ents' hands. This is how it turned out. Perhaps it will look good like this, I thought. I sawed it into a suitable length at the edge of the table, diagonally, like this. Next, it is easy to make space for the claw, or whatever this is, by cutting away some foam. I actually decided to split the end of the arm to create something interesting. Okay, that should do. I glued in the wooden bit. That's a bit strange, but it definitely fits with the theme of the monster. While that dried, I mass-produced textured Ent parts. I made another one of these, for my friend Jacob to paint. An Ent is so quick to craft. Here we have our boys. This one has a different pose and has a mighty claw. And this cute little thing, whatever it is. While these dried, I made bases from peanut butter lids. Here are the quick and easy steps. First, I coated the bases with a healthy amount of PVA glue. Then I sprinkled on ground flocking, chopped up bark and wood in this case. Behold my treasures from the forest flock bowl. The bark and wood bits are simply dropped on. They will stay better in place once they are tapped down. There, that's good. Moving on, I also cut myself a few larger pine bark bits. This will work as small cliffs. Bark is easily shaped with a moderately dull knife. Remember, more edges equals more highlights. Plenty of glue should keep them in place. Just a simple beginning for a base. Jacob will probably add mushrooms to his. In order to not disappoint him, I sealed in everything with diluted PVA glue. This can also be sprayed on, but that's a bit messier. I cleaned the table before even thinking of anything else. This is especially important when you apply flock like a 5-year-old. Okay, before adding stuff on the back of the Ent, I cut the legs flat and then split the arm as shown here. I believe I'll manage to paint this so it glows green or purple on the inside. Doubt. Just a bit of textures here, and then I added glue just to keep everything in place. Next, find some twigs and pine acorns. Stuff from the forest is always good to have around. First I cut many little twigs that I thought would look good. Then I stuck the twigs into the back of the cursed Ent. By the looks of this so far, I believe that the dead, leafless twigs contribute well to the creepy look of this build. I also placed a few twigs on the arms, and then sprinkled on some dill to cover spots of excessive glue. The pine cones were useful. I removed these bits first. I needed about 30 of them. Then I glued them around the legs as extra armor, and also placed a few higher up on the body. Yeah, this works better than expected. These bits were also what was missing from the left hand. Much better. Here is also the one I'll give to Jacob. Now these just need to be base coated before painting. I have already done that for the bases. They were painted with brown and black, the rim just black. The ends were base coated with a 50-50 mixture of burnt umber and PVA glue. I covered everything while making sure to get plenty in between fragile cracks and joints. The twigs also become more durable. There. I did also spray a bit on everything for a matte finish. I then packaged this one for transport. There you go, one creatine monohydrate Ent.
Thanks!
Yep. I started by painting mine with brown. With this mixture of burnt umber and yellow, I painted all of the wooden surfaces. Just gently, not into the cracks and grooves of the wood. With all the textures in the foam, you can't really go wrong with the paint job, unless you try something stupid. Next I painted the inside of the left arm with purple, also the mouth and eyes. I had painted with white first, in hopes of getting brighter colors. I kind of dry brushed around the eyes to create a glowing effect. I then painted several thin layers of pink, while also painting a few deep grooves in the same way. The key here is to be patient and apply diluted pink several times until the inner part of the effect is fully pink. I painted much of the end in this way, probably too much. Okay, then a bit of white on some spots. Here I also highlighted some edges. I'm not quite happy with this. I'll work on it as we go. Next I painted green in the grooves of the right side of the Ent. It's the same method, but with green and yellow paint instead. Perhaps this will work, I thought. I dry brushed the twigs with purple, and then painted the top with pink. The idea is to dry brush a pink-purple gradient. I then painted the right side twigs with green, and then with yellow in the same way. Some twigs look good as half green and half purple. I plan to save this with some washes, but first some dry brushing with orange on the wood. After that I dry brushed all pine cone bits with brown and then with a tan. And why not with green on one side? I felt like this miniature was a lost case, but I kept going. For a moment here I thought that I had ruined this miniature. I tried too much with the glowy things. Time to cover up. First I applied PVA glue on top. Then I sprinkled on black tea and dill. This will be interesting. Yet again, flocking is the solution to every problem. The combination of dill and black tea makes for a good dark forest flock. Also works on the base. This has simply been dry brushed with brown and then with a lighter grey. On these bases I applied the two flocks separately, in order to create patches of black and green. Before assembly, here are a few things I did to improve my Ent. I highlighted the edges of this bit with yellow, and here I painted the mouth just black. The eyes. Let's not talk about them. Using a diluted black-purple mixture, I got the outer parts of the glowy grooves toned down a bit. I also painted more highlights on the twigs. It is time. I applied plenty of glue under the legs and the right arm, placed on the Ent, and then covered the excess glue with flocking. I also glued on these little bark bits that I had painted in the same way as the twigs. And in order to get some yellow on the base, I made some sort of glowing plant from long pinecone bits. Yeah, I think I'll call it done. Let's see what Jacob is up to. Welcome to the crafting corner. Hello, there is the Ent. Yeah, I guess we have a winner. We'll get some better shots soon. Jacob used these paints to make a more reasonable paint job. These inks are definitely something I'll get in the future. They can be used to make really good washes. Here Jacob has also used texture paint to cover some parts. I take that as a great offense. This is the first time I've made something specifically for the next game, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. I hope you are looking forward to more terrain and miniature videos. If so, do subscribe and watch one of these videos next. This channel is partly funded by patrons, so if you really appreciate the content, you can support the making of these videos on Patreon. Thank you.